Welcome one more day to Space in Harmonia. Today I would like to speak about a very important subject. It has to do with overcoming the wounds we carry inside from childhood. The wounds that emerge due to a sense of abandonment or rejection. We are going to see those wounds following the structure of Harmonia with the help of the Enneagram, which is an expression of the Tree of Life. I have been showing aspects of this in other videos. Now, before going into the subject, I would like to notify that probably I will open another channel in English. Some people told me that having a channel in two languages can slow down the rating, and I have been noticing this in different ways. So I think it would be a good option to open a channel only in English. As you know, I have another channel called Vital and Harmonia, and I'm also considering the possibility of leaving that for the videos in English only. But as I said, I might open another channel. The idea would be just to change one letter. En Harmonia with Latin I for the Spanish version, and En Harmonia with Y for the English-speaking world in general. It would be interesting to see the response just from the English-speaking world, which for now is still low because my channel is mostly in Spanish, and this is why the YouTube algorithms might have some difficulty in offering videos to both audiences. So, having said this, let's go deep into the subject. As I have been explaining, the 9 energies that we find in the basic structure of the universe are operating both in the Sephirotic tree, which is a representation of the Tree of Life, and also the famous Enneagram, which can be used to know and understand absolutely everything. And I use it very much in the course Harmony Therapy in order to show certain aspects of ourselves. So we are not studying symbols in themselves, we are studying ourselves with the help of symbolic imagery. For me, artistic representations are very important in order to know ourselves, because the universe is a piece of art regardless of the imperfections. Now we are going to see that imperfection is somehow needed for perfection. And in case you don't know the Ennea types, in this video you are going to know them a bit more, as well as the wound they carry from childhood. This is a subject I'm presently teaching to some people in my course, Harmony Therapy, in the project Vital and Harmonia. But I'm going to be making a complete summary, so you have a greater perspective. Now, as I have said in other occasions, the Tree of Life, which is the manifestation of true reality, has 13 aspects, 12 fruits coming from a primordial source. However, the Tree of Life has 9 basic energies, which we can see from the sphere of wisdom going through Binah, all down to Malkut, in which the crown of life can be manifested. The crown would be on the top, and this crown is somehow what we have been given in order to grow. The Holy One, the primordial source, the primordial Father, emanated a light, a radiation, a spirit, which is full of consciousness and conscience. But also he gave us his will, his primordial force. Therefore we have the masculine and feminine aspects in order to be the true sons of the Holy One. And when we have the crown of life, we can handle the 9 energies in ourselves, healing all the traumas we carry inside. Depending on the upbringing, the imbalance is different in each one of us. So we all tend to one Enneatype or several triads. Actually, we all have a nucleus of trauma, which can be understood perfectly with the Enneagram and other symbolic representations. But here you have a representation I made, including both the fixations, the passions, virtues, and primordial ideas of each Enneatype, which is an approach to know ourselves. Now, if you notice, there is a central triad known as 936, which correspond with love, hope, and faith. And this is key to understand the way of healing, because we have to change the perspective on how we approach reality. Usually when we feel hurt, we consider ourselves as victims, as people that are weak, or even sinners, as religious people say. But we have to change the viewpoint. As the master of primordial life taught 2000 years ago, we are the light of the cosmos when we receive this love from the Holy One, and therefore we should stop considering ourselves as weak or imperfect. We have to adopt the point of view of the light in ourselves, and therefore assume the responsibility of healing. Stop demanding healing from external deities or a supreme God. The God, if you wish, lives inside, and he is not even called God. He doesn't have a human name. He's an energy of salvation, of loving life, which is full of conscience, consciousness, and will force. Therefore, we have to be in contact with this energy in ourselves. And the other day, a student asked me something which is very interesting. She said, "How can I feel that I am a son of the Holy One if I'm usually not feeling like that?" And I replied that the only way you can really find the true son within you is to find moments of serenity where you can recognize that pure conscience and pure insightfulness, pure love in yourself cannot come from the world. And if that's in you, that's meant to be for you. That's meant to be your deeper self, because that's your being. Even though you believe that you are just the external personality, you are meant to harmonize your personality, which is different. You are meant to include your personality and to manifest the personality of the Holy One in the world. That is the key. So having said this, now we can go through the Enneagram, knowing the traumas of each one, starting in the Enneatype 1, which belongs to the gut triad. We have someone usually called the perfectionist, because he has that trap of searching for making things perfectly, correctly. He even becomes very demanding with himself, with others. Even he feels himself with rage or anger when someone is not perfect according to his own ideas of perfection. And this goes back to his childhood. Maybe he or she was someone whose parents demanded him to behave correctly, constantly, to be always polite, and he even felt humiliated on some occasions. Maybe his parents or her parents ashamed the child in front of others, and this made the person feel a certain shame, which over time became part of his personality. And in order to avoid that shame and give others the sense of being polite or correct or moral, started to behave in a very morally rigid way, giving the impression of being very correct and even hiding qualities of imperfection. And what this Enneatype is not realizing is that the true perfection implies going through imperfection. Perfection means to close the circle, and you cannot close a circle when you don't include the possibility of incompleteness, because something which is complete must include everything. So, in order to be perfect, you have to embrace your shadows and overcome your weaknesses, but not to the point of denying the weaknesses. You have to accept in a human body you are going to have weaknesses and imperfections, and that's part of perfection. So, if the holy idea of the Enneatype 1 is perfection, his virtue is a serene wisdom that acknowledges what true perfection is. So his healing phrase would be, I am perfect in my essence, and in true love I embrace imperfections. This is how he stopped feeling this resentment or anger. Now, in the case of the Enneatype 2, we have someone known as the helper, and he or she is usually committed to others in service, but because inwardly they are expecting to receive a certain recognition or love. If I'm not helping others, if I'm not in need, I won't be loved. This Enneatype 2 feels the wound of abandonment, and this is the trap in which they are. So their vice is a certain proud attitude. I call it the proud servitude instead of true help to others, which is somehow a form of slavery, because you deny your own needs in order to fulfill the other's needs, which can be in contradiction with the needs of others. So in this case, the person needs to find true humility. The person needs to find the true essence that comes to the world to help unconditionally, freely. The primordial idea of this Enneatype is freedom. So his healing would come by the sense of recognition, I am free, and serve in humility, bringing light to the world. This is what the Master taught. He washed the feet to the apostles, and he reversed many traditions. He didn't even want it to be called Lord, as religious people do, because that's even in the New Testament. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and you don't do what I teach? Or I call you brothers, because the slaves and servants do not know what their Lord is doing, but you know what I am doing. I am doing the will of the Father, so you can do the will of the Father. And this is the true way of bringing true help to the world. You are the light of the world, he said. In the case of the Enneatype 3, we have the actor, the achiever, the person that is pursuing goals, external goals, in order to receive something that they think they don't have. They mistake being for having, thinking that if they have more achievements, they will be more recognized. In this case, the wound would be the sense of rejection and abandonment. In childhood, this person probably felt that his parents wanted him to become a great man with many achievements, and if he didn't achieve those goals, he wouldn't be loved. So he pursues external goals, putting on himself or herself masks of deception. He deceives himself or herself, he deceives the others. The passion is deceit deception in general, because this is a very vanidose Enneatype. Vanity is the fixation. So the only way of finding healing is by realizing that you can only be fulfilled when you really are authentic, realizing that the true hope is to become what you are meant to be in essence. This is why hope is the primordial idea. I hope to be what I am in essence, manifesting authentically, to shine and help others as well. This would be the healing maxim for this Enneatype. The qualities of this Enneatype are very healing for those of us who are more introverted, those of us who need to bring ourselves out. And the Enneatype 3 must go inwards. So you have to make this distinction as well. You are an introverted person or a person that moves outwards. In the case of the Enneatype 4, we start moving into the introverted triad, by the way. The Enneatype 4 is the individualist, the romanticist, the melancholic. Melancholy is the fixation, a certain sense of emotionality in which the person feels a lack. In childhood, he or she was probably feeling abandoned or not valued, and they think that some people have qualities that they don't have, and this is why their passion is envy. They don't realize that if you see beauty or perfection outside, it's because that beauty or perfection is in you. Therefore, regardless of what they feel, they need to find their true originality without trying to become important or seen. You are going to be seen as soon as you develop your essence, and then is when others will recognize your originality, because each one of us is original and unique, but when we develop as we truly are. Otherwise, you can be mistaking a certain bohemian and individualistic sense of things for true authenticity. This is why you find many melancholic 4 Enneatypes making abstract art or things that they think are original, but they are just projecting their own shadows. So the true healing maxim for this Type 4 personality would be, I am equanimous, recognizing the beauty in myself and in the world, bringing compassion to others, being original in service to others, showing my originality to be a light in the world. Now moving to the other introverted Enneatype, the Type 5. We have the Stinge personality, the personality which does not share himself with others, which becomes a little bit antipathic sometimes. It might seem cruel or cold, but it's because the emotions are repressed. He feels the world is a threat. He feels himself as a problem to others. Maybe because in childhood he was rejected, maybe he felt humiliated by someone, or even abandoned by his parents, and therefore the way out for him is to become an expert in technical things or in certain knowledge. His trap is to be searching for data in order to be useful or having ways to get out of problems, to fix everything. It's a very mental type. It's the one that opens the mental triad, by the way. And in this case, the search for knowledge is not bad in itself, but it's a trap. And he becomes full of greed. He searches for things that only shares with himself or the group of confidence. Usually the Enneatype 5s have a group of friends with which they share technical knowledge. It can be in anything, in maths, in video games, in whatever makes them feel safe in the world. Therefore, they have to find their true virtue, which would be the ability to detach, to think, to observe, but use that in benefit of the world. Prudency would be the divine idea. It's necessary to become a prudent person that uses wisdom in order to behave in the middle way, neither too much nor too little, finding the adequate way of manifesting your light. Now, going to the other mental Enneatype, the type 6, we have the loyalist, the questioner. She feels insecure and safe. She's constantly looking for loyal people in which she can trust. She can also demand certain knowledge to feel safe about something. This is because in childhood she felt abandoned, not supported. Probably she felt the wound of treason, disappointment with her parents or disappointment with friends. And the trap is to be looking for security constantly, feeling an restlessness which fills the heart of anxiety. Therefore, she needs to find true security by means of true faith. That would be the main primordial idea. Faith belongs to the central triad: love, hope, and faith. And in this case, she must trust the primordial light in ourselves, which comes from the Holy One. And we can always trust the Holy Light because we are meant to be safe in order to fulfill our mission. So as long as I am trusting the higher force, I can be safe and courageous. I can be full of courage in order to bring the light to the world. This would be the essence of the maxim to heal this Enneatype. I am courageous and safe in faith of my true essence, my true holy resources, being security for others as well. And now it's becoming a bit dark. I'm going to see if I can finish before the light is completely over. Light is never over, by the way, it's always within you. But continuing with the issue, in the Enneatype 7, we find someone which is also restless. He's a very mental type. He also felt abandoned, not cared enough by his parents or her parents. And he felt that life is not joyful enough. Therefore, this Enneatype, usually called the plan maker, the planifier, or the optimistic, the hedonistic, search for constant pleasures. He falls into the trap of lust or gluttony in order to escape from the sense of discomfort. He can also be making constant plans in order to have social relationships, holidays, a good job, joyful job, whatever makes him feel enjoy, without realizing that external pressures can only lead to a sense of emptiness. Therefore, he must find temperance and also realize that the holy idea in this case would be laboriosity, conscious work to bring the true honey in the world, to be like a bee that gathers the pollen and makes true honey of wisdom for others, also realizing that true blissfulness comes from self-discovery and sharing that wisdom with others. Now, in the case of the Enneatype 8, we have the opponent, the justice maker, because he feels the need to search for his own justice. In childhood, he felt hurt, he felt humiliated, he felt the victim of certain abuses or injustices, and therefore he now builds a very heavy armor character which tries to defend himself by means of harshness, even violence, and he usually shows himself as very dominant over others, trying to control people, not only to protect himself but also to protect those who are close to him. But he doesn't realize that lacking true sensitivity and lacking compassion is not the way to protect yourself or others. He is in fear of being vulnerable before others, and therefore he becomes very tough. He becomes insensitive with himself, with others, without realizing that the true justice does not come by means of vengeance or retaliation, but by means of finding the true sensitivity in order to protect yourself and others with the energy of loving care, of true wisdom, true force, vitality. It's in the visceral gut triad, and therefore the Enneatype 8 can only be healed by means of recognizing the own force and truth within himself. He needs to be simple, to find innocence within himself in order to heal the sense of guilt, because he was accused of many things. You are bad, you are a sinner, you have to be punished. So he punished himself, but punishment is not the way of the divine, of the holy divine. Punishing ourselves is one of the most destructive actions. Therefore, the healing maxim here would be, I am true force and truth to shine and protect the world and my essence. Now finally we have the Enneatype 9, which somehow gathers all qualities. Here we find the peacemaker, the mediator, because he is a source of natural harmonia when he is in the light. I found many of my traumas in this nucleus, and the key here is that this Enneatype, since childhood, felt not only abandoned or rejected because of different reasons, he also felt the wound of humiliation and injustices. He was accused of many things that he didn't do. He was punished many times. And in this case, as he does not want to be in conflict with himself or with others, he tries to find peace by means of self-forgetfulness, self-narcotization as it is called. Sometimes it's by means of emotional eating, by pseudo-spiritualities in which you just want to dissolve yourself in the emptiness, like in Buddhism, for instance. Sometimes it's by means of drugs or by means of music. I, for instance, practice a lot of meditation, and I also learned to play many instruments because music is one of my passions. Until I realized I was feeling empty inside. And as I was scared of this emptiness, I realized that I had to know myself and bring the true value of myself. The Enneatype 9 needs to recognize he is a source of harmonia, but he has to be in harmonia with himself, even accepting that side which is not pleasant and has to be harmonized. And he also needs to recognize that as a source of harmonia, he can deal even with people that can be a conflict. So the solution is not retreating himself and forget about the problems. The solution is to be a light, an harmonious light for the world, having the courage to step out, to value yourself and stand as a source of true guidance for others and for yourself, mostly first for yourself and then for others. So the healing maxim would be, I am valuable and I deserve to be the armonia of my essence. This would be the encouraging attitude in order to heal all those wounds of rejection, abandonment, injustice, treason, whatever. And in a sense, the Enneatype 9 is given the key of healing of the other Enneatypes as well, because all of us need to recognize our value, to stand out, and to be the armonia that we are meant to be. To be the true love, which is not an emotion or a sentiment, is rather an inclusive, integrative energy which heals and sets everything into the corresponding place. You might find yourself in several Enneatypes, but realize each one of us has a nucleus of trauma, and we are always going to find ourselves more in a triad. So if you pay attention, you will always find yourself more in one Enneatype than in others. And this is why in the harmonic therapy course I use several approaches in order to find the structure of our trauma, in order to release all tensions and blockages. Not only with the Enneagram, but also with the Tree of Life, psychoenergetic structure, but little by little I will be giving more information about this. Now, as it's very dark already, thank you very much for listening with attention. And as I said, I might be opening another channel or keep publishing these videos in the other channel, Vital and Harmonia. I will decide soon. But meanwhile, let's keep opening our mind and our heart in order to express the love without limits, life without obstruction, integral conscience, and deep, blissful serenity.